The dust jacket of that one was very loose, so I nearly dropped it on the floor. I know that a friend of mine is probably gonna start screaming at me because this was her favorite book in this trilogy. Jane and I have been talking about this for such a long time. Hello lovely bookworms, I'm Esmay from Paradise of Pages on Instagram and also on Twitter, and welcome to a new video. I'm once again sitting down. Today is my day off. It is Tuesday, so it actually changes every single week, but today I'm off and I thought I would film a video, so here we are. You've already seen it from the title. Before we actually go into the books that I want to talk about, and basically the books that are very high on my priority list, I do want to say, one, that my ring light is acting up a little bit, so hopefully the light will be fine. Second, I'm filming with my new phone apart from my old phone, which I have here for reference, and I hope that everything is good. I've been playing around a bit with the settings and all of that, so hopefully it all looks good for you. That said, I think I can turn down the ring light a little bit, right? I think that's a little bit less intense, but let's get into things. As you could have seen from the title, today I'm talking about 10 books that I want to read in the near future. So basically what this means is I have picked out 10 books that are very high on my priority list. This can be new books, but there are also a couple of sequels in here. Just books that I want to pick up again, because I think one of them I have started at some point, but not continued. In any case, 10 books. I am not sure how much I can tell you about each book, because some of them, as you probably know at this point if you follow me for a longer time, I like going into books not knowing too much, and especially if it's a new series, I will have at one point read the synopsis for it, know that I want to read it, and then I just leave it on my TBR, and then at one point realize, oh, okay, I'm gonna read this now. So with some of them, I'm not too sure what they are about, and they all have reasons behind them why I think I want to read them soon. So I think I've rambled enough. So let's just start with book number 1, which is a sequel. So book number 1 is a book that I am not so sure I will absolutely adore, but I do want to continue this series, and once I put this up, I know that a friend of mine is probably gonna start screaming at me because this was her favorite book in this trilogy, and the book that I'm talking about is The Heart Forger by Rinchipeko. This is in the Bone Witch trilogy. Rinchipeko, such an amazing writer, and I loved the story that they created. And in general, I feel like I really should be continuing, because the first book really felt as if it was building up to the second and maybe even the third book, sort of setting up the story. And there's a lot of unanswered questions in the first book that I really want answered in the second book. So in the Bone Witch trilogy, we follow Tia, and Tia is discovered to be a bone witch, meaning that she can bring people back to life, so there's necromancy involved, and in the first book it really sets out her journey, her learning process, and her just coming to terms with the things that she can do, but also the way in which people will feel about her because of her powers, and also the fact that the world is changing really fast, and also the fact that these bone witches are dying out. And that's basically where the story starts. I'm not going to say too much other than that because of spoilers, but I am very curious to see what will happen in the second book. It feels really massive, even though I feel like it probably isn't even that many pages, but, well, it's about 500 pages, so it's a pretty decent book, but I feel like I will be reading this one for a long time. I took a very long time reading The Bone Witch as well, just to soak up everything that was in the book, and while I did really enjoy it, I don't think it's my all-time favorite, but I've heard from Cheyenne, who actually kept screaming at me to read the series, that the second book I think was her favorite, or was the first one her favorite and Yumi's favorite was the second one. I'm not completely sure, but basically I have high hopes for this one, and I really hope that I will enjoy this one a lot more than The Bone Witch. Okay, so on to the second book. The second book is actually supposed to be a buddy read with Jane from the Bookaholic. Jane and I have been talking about this for such a long time, and It's so bad. We've been talking about this. I think I put it on my TBR of February or January, maybe. I am not sure, somewhere at the beginning of the year. But the book that I am talking about is Star Daughter by Sweta Takar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This book is basically about a girl who is born of a star. I'm pretty sure her mother is a star and then her father is immortal. Other than that, I don't know too much about it, and I want to keep it that way. And I desperately, desperately hope that Jane and I can read this soon. It was actually a bit of both of us because we really want to read it together, and then I think in February I was in the mood for it, but Jane was in a reading slump, and then once Jane was actually in the reading flow around June, I was in a reading slump, so it was such a hassle. But we were determined to read it together. And yeah, that is book number 2. Okay, so back to another sequel. This is the second book in I think it's a series, I'm not completely sure, but the first one I read earlier this year and was an anticipated release last year. I gave it 5 stars and I am beyond excited to get into this one. And the book I'm talking about is the sequel to Forest of Souls, which is Broken Web by Laurie M. Lee. This book, I think, immediately follows after Forest of Souls, and Forest of Souls was one of the biggest surprises, that's the word, surprises of 2021 for me so far. I loved the story, I loved the way that the characters chose what to do. I also love the fact that it's not one of those, it's a fantasy and we immediately have a love interest kind of book. It is a lot, like, it has so many layers, and I'm pretty sure I read this for a book club back then. I don't really remember, but I loved the first book and I really, really want to continue with this one. Something I do want to say, this bothers me. Why do we do this in books? Why do we have this beautiful, beautiful cover and then add a fake sticker to it? Can we stop this, please? If anyone in the publishing world is listening to this, which they probably aren't, but can we stop this, please? Please? That'd be nice. So yeah, this is book number 3, I think? Yeah, 3 yeah, it's book number 3. The dust jacket of that one was very loose, so I nearly dropped it on the floor. Okay, so the next book is my most recent purchase, and this one definitely has a mood to it. There is something that I am obsessed with currently, there's something that I cannot get out of my head currently, and that is a certain Norse god. More specifically, the god of mischief. More specifically, Loki. And so the next book that is on my I want to read this really, really fast is Loki, Where Mischief Lies by Mackenzie Lee. This book, it was only fair. I watched the Loki series on Disney Plus and once again fell head over heels with Loki. I think he's one of the best characters in the MCU. I love Marvel in general, and I think one of my favorites will always be the Thor movies and the first Avengers movie, and that is for most part because of Loki. Loki's such an interesting character, and I loved seeing all of his depth, and the TV show was amazing, though I am a bit unhappy with a couple of things, but we'll not go into that. 1, because of spoilers, and 2, because it has nothing to do with the book. But that was basically why I read quite a bit having to do with Norse myths. And so I picked up Loki, Where Mischief Lies. I bought it real quickly, just for myself, but also for a really good friend of mine. This one has deckled edges, and I'm still not sure what I feel about this. But anyway, this one is about Loki, as you can imagine. I am not completely sure what this is. I think this is, yeah, it's about a younger Loki who's desperate to prove himself. And other than that, I don't know too much, and I want to keep it that way. I do know that the book starts in Asgard, so very excited for that. I'm also excited to see how sort of true to the myths they stay, because the Loki in MCU is quite, well, not quite far, but it's further away from Loki in the actual myths. But I'm curious to see how, I'm pretty sure, considering it says Marvel, it will be closer to the MCU than the myths as they are. Nonetheless, super excited. I have no idea what this will entail, and that makes me excited. It's like going in face first and all the while smiling. So yes, that is book number 4, I believe, and I think also one of the ones that are highest on this list, because, I mean, I read it. No, I bought it very recently, and also, how stunning is this cover? Like, it's beautiful. I love, like, the birds, and then this is shiny, and then this is not. It's absolutely, absolutely stunning. I would have really liked having the name Loki in the Norse, like the actual Norse symbols or alphabet. Is that an alphabet? I'm not completely sure. But this is absolutely stunning, and I cannot wait to dive into it. Okay, so moving on to a book that I want to read, but is also very much on this list because I want to read more of this genre. If you know me, you know I barely read or ever read any sci-fi, and I want to get into sci-fi a lot more, so I think it is only fair if I start reading a couple of books that are sci-fi. And one of the books that I already had on my shelf that I got for my birthday was Aurora Rising by Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the first book, I think. I'm not sure what this series is even called. I think it's the Aurora Cycle, because it says so on the back. The only thing I truly know about this is that it's sci-fi. And I think there's a squad. Yeah, meet the squad of your dreams, and then it sort of, it doesn't really, like, I don't know. The alpha, the diplomat, the scientist, the gearhead, the warrior, the pilot, the mystery girl. I'm also pretty sure, I'm not sure if that's this one, but I think there's a book that basically says, this is not the hero we wanted, but the only one we could get, or something. Was that this one? My neighbor's doing something outside, that's great. That said, I am not completely sure what this is about, apart from the fact that it's a band of, not mischiefs, misfits, but just a squad. I will let you know once I actually pick this up what it is about, because as I said, I don't like going into depth about what I will be going into in a book, and so I don't know too much about it. The cover's absolutely stunning though. I feel like there's such a big difference between buying books and then reading them at the same time. With a lot of books, I buy them because they're pretty, and then they sit on my shelf being pretty for a very long time until I finally pick them up. And I am of the solid belief that there's a huge difference between buying books and reading them. They're two different hobbies, in my opinion. Very much two different hobbies. So next up is another sequel, and with every mention of this series, I feel like I say the same thing, and that's that it's been on my TBR for years, and I have yet to read it. I actually read the first book in this series, I think it was last year already, or it was the beginning of this year, but I'm pretty certain it was last year. But I really have to continue, and the book that I'm talking about is none other than Rebel Springs by Morgan Rhodes. This is the second book in the Fallen Kingdom series. It's the second one, right? I think it's the second one. And basically, we follow two main characters in the first book, which is... Here we go again. Names. Absolutely bad with names. Cleo! That was her name. We follow Cleo and Magnus. Magnus I did remember because I love Magnus. And also a couple of other characters. Jonas, I'm pretty sure, in their struggle with life. And they're all in different kingdoms, and they go to war, obviously. Otherwise it wouldn't be called Fallen Kingdoms. But yeah, this is the continuation. I think the immediate continuation of the first book. And I'm very interested to see how the magic in this world will continue. Okay, the neighbors are getting louder. Come on. Please. Please. I just want to film. Please. Do you guys like my eyeshadow, by the way? It's purple. I'm just gonna continue, otherwise I will never get this video filmed. But as I said, I really want to continue the series. I think there's 5 or 6 books, and I own all of them, so it's it's high time that I get into it, but I haven't yet for some weird reason. And so I should. And this is book number 7. Speaking of book number 8, this one is very much a recent purchase and also one that will be read this month. The book I'm talking about is 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I attempted not to put this on the list, but considering I've not read it yet and I just really want to read it, I think it is only fair that I put it on this list. Also, I really wanted to showcase the cover again because it's so stunning. This, I still don't know too much about this, but basically I'm pretty sure it's about a princess who is in exile and is trying to find her way back to her kingdom and back to her people. And in general, I feel like Elizabeth Lim's way of making a story, writing it, and just going from basically point A to point B is always such a beautiful and enjoyable road to travel. I love reading her books. They're fast-paced, the characters are well built, the world is well built. Every single book I've read of hers was an absolute joy, and all of them were 5 stars, so I have very high expectations of this one. If this one is not 4 or 5 stars, I'm going to be disappointed, but I have very high hopes, and I'm actually not that scared that this will disappoint because it's everything that I love in books. It's, at least I think it will be. And so it was only fair that I put this on the list. This is definitely the top 1 spot of wanting to read very soon. That already takes us to the second to last book, and this is a book that I have started but have not finished for some apparent weird reason. And that one is The Bear and the Nightingale by Arden. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy, and this was also a gift by Sasha, who gifted it to me for my birthday. And it is one of her absolute favorite books, and so it's only fair that I pick it up soon. I was supposed to read this during Bowlerthon, which was February this year, but yeah, that is this book. The only thing I know is that it is about Russia, and there's magic in this one, I'm pretty sure, as well. At the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts most of the year and the snowdrifts grow taller than houses. Yeah. From what I've read, which was a couple of pages, I did really like the style of writing, so we'll see what I think once I finally pick it up. Alright, that leaves one more book, and this is a book that I have intentionally put off. Not because I am certain I won't like it, but because I'm certain it will hurt me very much. This is a 3rd book in a trilogy, and meaning that it's the final book in this trilogy. And I've talked about both of these, so the first and the second book, in great depth, and I actually have a review for the first and the second book up, so I'll link the review for the first book up here, and which is Furyborn, and the book that I'm talking about is Lightbringer. Lightbringer is the 3rd book in the Imperium trilogy. I'm pretty sure it's called the Imperium trilogy, and I really don't know what to say about this, really, apart from the fact that I think it will be a 5 star. As I said, I have linked the review up here so you can watch it. I'll not say too much about Furyborn. I think everything I feel for this series and for that book, and also Legendborn, which I also have a review for, which I'll also then link now so you can see it, are in those videos, and both of them are 5 stars, and I think they're one of my absolute favorites, so I cannot wait to dive into this one, but I'm very scared of it, so I'm putting it on this list. I'm manifesting it. I will be reading it before the end of the year. It should be doable, alright? It should be doable. That said, that is the final book on this list, and I left it for the final one for a reason, because I've been putting it off. I really have been putting it off. And I think that needs to stop. I need to read that book ASAP. That said, those were all of the books that I have on this list of 10. There are a lot more books that I want to read currently, but 10 was enough. And I'm not sure if these will all be sort of read in rapid succession. I might be in the mood for something else because I'm a true mood reader, which really gets in the way of my reading sometimes. But all of these are very high on my list and will at one point be read, hopefully. And yeah, I hope you liked this video. Also, let me know if any of these books are on your lists. Have you read any of the books on this list? If so, let me know what you thought, because I would love to know. Also, let me know, I think that's the biggest question, let me know one book that is very, very high on your want to read soon list. And with that, I think I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and press that little bell icon so you can post notifications every single time that we post. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!